Hi, welcome back to Zach of All Trades. Long time no see. How you been? Despite what you may have heard, no, I did not give up on humanity and go off the grid never to be seen again. I have just been, of late, busy as a one-legged man I've just been really busy here recently between work and family and all that good stuff. And consequently, I really haven't done anything that's interesting that really I felt was video worthy. Kind of been in a bit of a creative slump. But tonight, all that changes, because tonight you are in for a treat especial, in the words of another prominent YouTuber around. Tonight is German food night in my house, and so I'm going to bring you along as we make Schnitzel and Spaetzle. Oh yeah, and we're going to have some sauerkraut too. So off the bat, you may be wondering just what credentials that I have that makes me the expert in making German food. Well, I have to say, none. No credentials whatsoever, except for the fact that I have been to Germany a time or two. I enjoy the food and took it upon myself to learn how to make it for my own family, just so that I didn't have to look around for a German restaurant. So what I'm doing here is flour and breadcrumbs over here. Nothing special, just breadcrumbs. You can make them yourself or you can buy them depending on what you have available. Into the flour goes some salt and some pepper. About that much. I don't know, depending upon your taste. And then a couple of eggs for the wash. Beat them up a little bit here. Well, there we go. It's pretty handy to have all this stuff very logically laid out here in order between where your meat's coming from and where it's going over here in the skillet. It makes things a lot easier to do. At some point before you get too far in, you want to go ahead and get your oil heating up. I'm sure that some people would attest that there's a big difference in taste in oils. I'm not really sure. I haven't done it enough times to be able to say do use this oil or don't use that oil. I've now done it a couple of times with olive oil, and I've done it with bacon grease as well. The bacon grease adds a nice little something to it. I just kind of use what I have the most of. This is avocado oil that I'm using here. And actually, I think I'm going to add a little bit of the bacon grease. Somebody's stomach just turned over the fact that I've got a jar of bacon grease sitting there, didn't it? Yeah, well, it's been happening for eons and eons. And what better way to use every bit of that bacon that you buy by keeping that bacon grease. It doesn't go bad. Sitting here covered, and you can use it for other things down the road. Now, we're going to go ahead and let that warm up until it starts, what's the term, shimmer, until it starts shimmering a little bit, and then we're going to keep it at about that temperature. In order to do this, I like to start with a pork chop, big thick pork chop, which you're going to have to adjust your cut to the thickness of this pork chop. I was doing getting 2 schnitzels out of one of these fat pork chops like this, and I think that it's a little bit thick still. So I'm going to cut this pork chop into 3 slices as even as I can. That will work just fine. And next, the part you've all been waiting for. I'm going to take an extra Ziploc bag and put it over the top of the pork chop that I'm about to smash with my brand new Schnitzel hammer. If you don't have a Schnitzel hammer, if you don't feel like buying one, I'm going to put a link right here. That's the process of making one of these out of pretty much scrap. So now we're going to pound this thing flat to about 1/4 inch thick. You want to do your best to pound kind of from the inside out. This is the inaugural use of the new Schnitzel hammer, and I'm going to say I'm pretty happy with it. So now once that you've got this pounded quite thin, 1/4 inch or maybe a little bit less, now drop it in the flour. Get it nice and covered. Now come over to the egg wash. And now to the breadcrumbs. Just make sure to get it nice and covered on both sides with your breadcrumbs. We're going to test the temperature of our oil here. I'm just going to drop a piece of breadcrumb in there. Oh yeah, works just fine. So we're going to nice and gently drop this in. Make sure when you drop this in, drop it away from you so you don't splash yourself. Now as this cooks, you're going to want to keep a close eye on it. I'm going to turn it a few times just to make sure that it doesn't burn on one side, but at the same time it gets cooked all the way through. The goal is to have the whole thing that nice golden brown right there. And about the time you get this nice dark golden brown, it's time to take it off. Set it to the side on a plate and do it several more times. Now that we've got the second one going, we're going to go ahead and get started on this Spaetzle. I'm going to put 3 eggs in our medium bowl. This is the bowl that's going to be used to mix all the stuff together. So choose a medium to large bowl here. I'm going to beat the eggs. Doesn't have to be super duper frothy. Just scramble them effectively. In another bowl, we're going to go with 1.5 cups of flour. After, of course, we flip our Schnitzel. Don't want to mess it all up while we're multitasking. 1/2 cup, 1 cup, 1.5, 3/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1, 2, 3, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, give or take. And we're going to sift all that together. If you don't have a proper sifter, this guy works just fine. Mix all that stuff together in there. Okay, now our last ingredient is going to be 3/8 of a cup of milk. Why it calls for 3/8, I don't know. I don't have any milk, so this is going to be extra rich. Cream. Yum. Alright, so what we're going to do with our wooden spoon, doesn't have to be a wooden spoon, just what I like using. We're going to alternately mix into here some flour, and some milk. It's going to look like this. Pretty thick, kind of pasty. You're supposed to set it aside and let it sit for 30 minutes. Well, time is not exactly something that I have the luxury of tonight. And I happen to know that it turns out pretty good even if you don't let it sit. So here comes the next part. Take a smallish cutting board, take a glob, and put it right there. This next part is what takes a little bit of practice, and just a little bit of technique to figure out how to do. I'm going to go over here where I've got some water boiling. Now flip our schnitzel. We're going to take our chef's knife, dip the end of your cutting board in the water just a little bit. Basically, you need to dip your knife a little bit too. I have a lot of slipping and sliding going on here. Effectively, what you're going to do is you're going to trim off that much. And it's going to go into your pot. You come back, trim it off again. So what you're making here is these little noodles, just like that. So just keep up the process. Make them smaller or bigger as you see fit. Once you're done with this pile, go to the next pile. And when you're an old German grandmother, you can do this much faster than some gringo who just learned how to do it. There's quite the art to it. After the noodles have all floated to the top, they're cooked. So go ahead and scoop them out. Drain them off a little bit and throw them into a bowl. Set them aside because we're going to do another step once we've got all those noodles turned into noodles. You don't want it to get too awfully crowded in there. Now the last step is to fry up an onion, or if in my case you forgot to get an onion, you can use a shallot. A shallot will work also. If you don't have a shallot, use garlic, whatever. Once you've got the onion softened a bit, throw in your Spaetzle. You want to do that over something like medium heat, maybe a little lower. You want to fry your Spaetzle until it's nice and toasted up, but not dried out. Nice little browning right there. That's just perfect. Yeah. Serve that up with some nice homemade sauerkraut. and you are set. What's that? You don't know how to make homemade sauerkraut? Haha, you're in luck, because right here, there you go. There's a link for a video to go make homemade sauerkraut. I really appreciate you watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you can use it, and give me your suggestions if you have any sort of input on this, maybe how I'm doing it wrong or how I could be doing it better. Oh, also, it is 21st of October. If you haven't registered to vote already, I don't know, it might be too late, but find out if you haven't done so already. And if you are registered to vote, please, please, please vote. There is an opinion about our system that it's broken and your vote doesn't count anyway. It might be true, but I guarantee that your vote doesn't count if you don't vote. So, go with a maybe, go with a guaranteed. It's up to you, but please vote. Thanks for watching, guys. That's all the political spiel that I have, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.